Hi everybody, this is Ingrid from Tarot Ingi, and today we're going to talk about Seven of Swords. This card is quite mysterious. It is a card for moving forward in less than honorable ways. It's the symbolism is someone who's avoiding some consequences. They want something. He's running away with something, but he doesn't want to deal with the consequences. In the deck that I'm making, I wanted the symbolism to be someone who carries away something, someone who's been hiding in plain sight, someone who looks innocent, but who and also who is crossing some kind of barrier. So this is someone who's been somewhere where they didn't belong, they blended in, they were there for other reasons than what they said. They might have pretended to be there for genuine reasons, but the reason they're there is because they want something, and it can be information, it can be stealing your ideas, it can be stealing money, it can be taking something, it can even be a connection, getting access to someone or something, and to do so they need to be in a certain place. But they're not there for genuine reasons, they're there for some selfish reason. So there is dishonesty connected with this card, and this is a card for the thief. And also sometimes someone who is very good at lying. Especially if you get this card with Magician reversed or any of the Kings reversed, or even if you're doing scrying, meaning you look at the cards but you don't necessarily look at the meaning, you just look at the energy the cards are giving you. If you look at the court cards and you get a funny feeling when you're looking in the eyes of the court cards, that can tell you there's something very wrong. And if you then get Seven of Swords as well, then you know there's something wrong with the person you're dealing with. Seven of Swords with Three of Swords can mean someone who's cheating. Same if you get Three of Cups reversed with this card, or maybe also you get a High Priestess reversed. Then you know there's someone who's playing with your emotions, manipulating you. This card with Nine of Cups reversed can mean someone who's greedy. Maybe they have some money issue, maybe they have a gambling problem, they could even have a drinking problem, a drug problem that they're hiding from you. And also this card has narrow-mindedness, so that if you're in a situation that's creating you to become Seven of Swords, it means that you're in a situation that creates narrow-mindedness in you, and you don't see any other way out, how to communicate properly, or even get yourself out of the situation. And maybe you feel completely trapped by the situation and you end up dealing with it in a manipulating way. So maybe you are under some kind of control as well. Maybe you are being sold a lie and you're living out some kind of dishonest belief or dishonest view, or at least a very limited view. Maybe you have learned to dodge, and it's just like a survival mechanism as well. So you are starting to move in this situation in a less than honorable way. Then have a look at how you can find another option to live, or maybe even get out of the situation. And if it's a relationship that is creating a lot of some relationship will be so toxic that the seeker is forced to lie to survive in the relationship, and then you are actually then turning into someone who isn't honest, but it's for survival basically. And then look at how you can get out of the situation basically. Seven of Swords in a love reading, it can speak of a relationship where you are being lied to, or you have to lie to survive in the relationship, or maybe you have issues with the truth, and maybe you have some deep-seated trust issues. If the seeker is single, then it can mean that you're meeting people who are not gonna commit, or like the relationships aren't gonna turn into anything else. Maybe the relationship are short-term. If it's a relationship, a couple, it can be that they're hiding away from the rest. Maybe they are like, they don't want to really have a lot of friends or socialize too much. They're happy living the way they're doing, And maybe they do so because they don't want too much scrutiny on what they're up to. So maybe they are a little bit on the eccentric as well, and they don't want to mix with others so much. They like to be kept. They want to be by themselves. In a career reading, this can mean that you take your expertise that you learned in one company and you go directly to the competition. So it can mean, it's almost like a transferring of information directly to the competition, but it can even mean spying as well, or spying on the competition, or even being in some kind of spying role. So it can be actually secret service, espionage, but it can also mean that you're marketing and you're spying on your competitors to see what they're doing, what's working for them. So it's like intelligence, but corporate intelligence. It can mean that you're in a role where you can come and go as you like, that you can pretty much do what you want. It can mean those jobs as well, and that no one's managing you, no one even knows what you're up to. In a yes or no question, it's more likely a no, because it's like a short-term kind of energy to this card. Like whatever is the reward is usually short-lived, and it has to evolve for it to become long-term. So whatever situation you're asking about, it needs some more substance to it for it to evolve into what you want it to be. If you're asking about feelings, then this card speaks of someone who really needs to be alone a lot of the times. They don't like being around people so much. They like to observe and interact with the world from a very safe distance, from where they're feeling safe. There's a big issues with trust in this card. This is not someone who puts their guard down. If they are interacting with someone, it's usually because they have an agenda, and they might not even know that they're doing this. But for them to be able to interact, especially more than just in short intervals, they need some other reason other than just for it to be sociable. That's not enough for them. They are not going to share their thoughts and feelings. This is someone who's going to be very private, and whatever it is that they're revealing about themselves is only what they will allow you to see. This is someone who most likely feels deeply let down by their peers, and it could have been a deep wound early in their lives, and they just can't handle the social aspects of life. It gives them too much flashbacks, and it keeps them in a very vulnerable state. If you're asking how someone is feeling about you, it can mean that this person does not yet trust you. They most likely don't trust anyone, and that you don't know this person very well. You only know what they allow you to see. They can show you someone who might seem extremely trusting. Maybe they even seem very sociable, outgoing. It's not who they really are. As a personality type, this is someone who they know everything about people, but no one knows anything about them. Not really, only what they want them to see. They like to do as they please, and sometimes if they do have people in their life, it's people that they get something from. So it could mean that they're a bit exploitative in a relationship. So if they have long-term relationship, it's some sort of, it benefits them in some way. And if they didn't have this benefit, they wouldn't be in their lives, basically. And they're very charming usually. So it's not easy to see through these people, because they are often a bit chameleon as well. They become whoever you want them to be, or whoever they need to be, to fit in, to get what they want out of this situation. And this is someone who, when they're really on the negative and they get more of an access to your life, they will hack your email, they will read everything, they will look through your diary and phone. Like, they're very nosy when it comes to your privacy, but they're extremely protective when it comes to their privacy. They're very active mind, they're very observant, they observe everything, they notice everything. Sometimes they're extremely intuitive as well, and they will know everything about you and your vulnerabilities. Again, they are creating resources for themselves, so they can be as comfortable and independent as what they want. But it's usually to do with resources, that's what they want deep down. So they want something that they can use for themselves. When this card is reversed, then it means that this attitude will be very easy to see. So the person is not very good at hiding, They're manipulating behaviors. It can mean that they're telling lies, but then they can't remember what lies they've told. So, they get found out. They're forgetful. They're clumsy in their manipulations. So sneaking around and cheating and lying, it's not going to work. It's going to be found out. But sometimes it can mean also someone who has been always put into place, always been told that they're no good. They've been sort of beaten down so much that even though they are actually honest people, they're so paranoid about being put in that box of you're just a nothing, a no gooder, that they become completely paranoid and they're terrified of getting into trouble even when they haven't done anything wrong. So that is also the case with Seven of Swords reversed. They're just so used to being a scapegoat and always being in trouble that they're completely exhausted, and therefore they're withdrawing completely from society and they become very much loner types. Reverse as personality type, then that's what you see. You see someone who's so insecure how to act or how to behave, that's so fearful and so in the sort of pleasing role, sort of trying to basically keep people on their good side because they're so beaten down with abuse, usually emotional and mental abuse. So they create some kind of persona where they feel like they can hide behind someone, often very animated and sometimes attention seeking, but it's all kind of manipulating as well because they're trying to get attention towards them so they can control what's being said about them. And sometimes they feel also so desperate for kindness and desperate for some acknowledgement that they use this clown persona to get people's attention. But sometimes the clown can also be a distraction from what they're actually doing. So they're usually much smarter than what they're letting on. If you're in a personal relationship with a Seven of Swords reverse person, then this is someone who's going to be quite draining to be around. And also they're usually quite good at wrecking other people's reputation, just to be part of the conversation. And but then they pretend that was someone else who said it. So they're kind of doing facade management. Deep down is someone who's deeply insecure about themselves. And let's see what the runes have to say about Seven of Swords. That the heart of Seven of Swords is someone who's been pushed into a situation where they didn't want to be, but it could be like from an earlier stage in their development that they were kind of like, you're going to have to be this person when you grow up, but it was never who they really were. So they could have been kind of shaped into being a certain way, but it doesn't fit who they are on the inside. So they never really find, like this card, if it shows up, that you are somewhere where maybe you're thinking you should be, but it doesn't connect with you emotionally. I'm getting Lagus sort of laying down. So it doesn't know where to go. It doesn't know if it should go with the flow, go against the flow. It's kind of just testing the waters. Above it is Therisas, which is the boundary rune, which is interesting because water is like the emotions. They try to keep their emotions at bay as well. They're very afraid of their own emotions. So Seven of Swords is also a situation that you could feel overwhelmed with emotions, and you could be compartmentalizing to try and sort of keep yourself sane. But it's a situation that creates more problems because you'll never be able to just be yourself. I also get Ansu sideways, and it's kind of pushing into the other rune. So that's where I'm getting this, like being a mentor, a leader. It could be one of the parents that kind of push the seeker into a role or shape them into someone that doesn't really feel like who they are. But Where they really want to go is to Dagas, and Dagas is where, if you are in a Seven of Swords situation, it's really what the seeker wants more than anything, is to understand themselves spiritually. That is the main goal of all the sevens, actually. But because the seeker is so out of touch in Seven of Swords, they're so out of touch with themselves, and in the situations are reflecting back to them, then they need it even more. So if you get Seven of Swords, then you could be in a situation that is going to be a catalyst to you to go in a completely new direction and have a spiritual awakening. Because it's going to be so obvious to you that what you're doing and how you're living is not going to serve you long term. Like, it's not going to be sustainable long term. So some of you could seek out a spiritual path, or even a group that live very much with a code of conduct that's almost like a religion. So it could be police even, or some kind of rule book that makes sense to you, where you get to serve in a way that is really aligning with who you are. Dagas does show up sometimes when someone is in a role where they get to it's not always religion, but it can be religion. It can also be serving society through either police work or some kind of protective role. But sometimes also it is serving the community through an organization. It doesn't always have to be a religious organization. But also the goal is to get the discipline to live in a more spiritual, authentic way, to be more positive and optimistic. But it has to be a lot of reckoning, inner reckoning, and also letting go of who you thought you had to be. That's the hardest part. And in Seven of Swords, it's a bit of a warning for the seeker that now you don't. If you keep living like this, it's going to be harder as time goes on. It's better to deal with it now, because you're just living out a persona. You're living out someone else. It's not even who you really are. And if you keep living it out, you're gonna have to. It's gonna be harder to access the authentic self later on. So Seven of Swords is a good warning as well, but it can also be someone in your life that is manipulating you, and you end up having to manipulate to survive. You have to lie to survive. It can be an abusive relationship where you constantly have to lie to stay safe. It can be a workplace that is so stressful that you have to find all these other ways of surviving to keep your job, for example. So this card is really about mental survival, the mental survival mechanism in a hostile situation. So some people are master manipulators because they learned in childhood, and also they don't believe that they're worthy of anyone's love and affection, so they think they have to manipulate to get it. Other people, it's all about control. They have no need or desire to change. But most people are completely unaware of those defense mechanisms as well. So when the cards show you that this is happening, then the situation you're in could serve you in some way, because in Seven of Swords, you're most likely able to, especially if it's upright, you're most likely able to get a lot of information, get a lot of resources that could be very useful to you. But long term, the cards are saying it's not a sustainable way of living. You need to live more true to your own heart, your soul. You need to connect back to your soul. You need to live more from your heart connection. And that takes meditation, it takes practice. And that's what the card Seven of Swords means. It actually wants to push the seeker towards the spiritual life. But first, it needs to wake the seeker up, and all these situations they're going to kind of pile up until the seeker knows that, okay, I need to change, I need to have some kind of enlightenment in my life. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this card. The next card I'm going to do is Eight of Swords.